"Officer Hayes, do not damage that pass." The warning came from a black woman standing beside a gray rental sedan at the outer checkpoint of Fort Ridgeline, and the calmness in her voice seemed to irritate Bradley Hayes more than anger would have. He held the military access credential between two fingers beneath the hard morning sun, studying it as if he had already decided what it was before reading anything printed on it. Alicia Morgan stood on the other side of the inspection table in a dark navy blazer and tailored slacks, her expression controlled, her posture straight, her hands visible at her sides. Captain Sarah Mitchell, the military police officer assigned to the gate, watched from several feet away. Officer Luke Bennett stood near the patrol vehicle, his body camera recording the encounter. Bradley turned the credential over again. "This does not look like the passes I usually see," Alicia answered evenly. "Then verify it through access control." Sarah nodded. "That is easy enough. I can call the desk." Bradley barely looked at her. "I know what a valid pass looks like." Alicia studied his face. "Apparently you know what the ones you have seen look like." The sentence was not sarcastic. That somehow made it land harder. Bradley's jaw tightened. "If this were real, you would not be this nervous about me checking it." Alicia looked at him for a long second. "I am not nervous." Luke glanced toward Bradley. The red recording indicator on his camera remained steady. Beyond the checkpoint, cars moved through the neighboring lane while a barrier arm rose and fell in the bright sunlight. A few minutes earlier, Bradley had waved a familiar white contractor through after a quick glance at his credential. Now Alicia had been standing at the table for nearly 10 minutes while he questioned her rental car, her destination, the format of her pass, and why someone like her needed access to the base. She had answered each question without raising her voice. Bradley still seemed dissatisfied. Sarah stepped closer. "Officer Hayes, let me verify the number." "I said I have it." He pinched the edge of the protective sleeve surrounding the credential. Alicia's eyes moved to his hand. "Do not damage military property." Bradley gave a short, dismissive laugh. "If it is legitimate, they can issue another one. That is not the procedure." "You seem very familiar with procedure." "I am." Bradley looked at her with the expression of someone who believed he had finally found the inconsistency he wanted. "Yet you cannot explain why your pass looks different." Alicia remained still. "I already explained that it was issued through a different command office. Call access control and confirm it." Sarah reached toward her radio. Bradley stopped her with a look. "No, we are not wasting command staff time because somebody printed something official-looking." Luke's expression changed. Alicia noticed. "Officer Bennett," she asked, "is your body camera recording?" Luke hesitated only briefly. "Yes, ma'am." Bradley turned toward him. "That is not relevant." Alicia kept her eyes on Luke. "Good. Keep it running." Bradley looked back at her. "You planning to file a complaint?" "I am planning to make sure there is an accurate record." For the first time, his confidence flickered. Then pride replaced caution. He bent the protective sleeve sharply against the edge of the table. Sarah stepped forward. "Bradley, stop." Alicia did not move. "Officer Hayes. Last opportunity." He pulled at the laminated edge. The sleeve split with a dry snap, damaging the access credential inside. Silence fell across the checkpoint. Bradley placed the broken pieces on the table like evidence of a victory. Alicia looked down at them, then slowly raised her eyes to Luke's camera. "Time," she asked. Luke checked his display. 10:26. Alicia nodded once. "Documented." Bradley gave a humorless smile. "You really think writing down the time changes anything?" Alicia looked toward the road leading deeper into Fort Ridgeline, then back at him. "No, Officer Hayes. What changes things is what happens when the people who issued that pass arrive and ask why you destroyed it." About an hour earlier, Alicia Morgan had been driving toward Fort Ridgeline in a gray rental sedan with the air conditioning running against the late summer heat. Nothing about the car suggested rank. Nothing about her clothing did either. She wore a dark navy blazer over a light blouse, tailored slacks, and simple black shoes, the kind of professional outfit that allowed her to move through an unfamiliar place without attracting attention. On the passenger seat rested a sealed briefing folder, a leather document case, her military identification, and the access credential issued through a command office that most checkpoint personnel would never have seen before. Alicia had chosen the rental car herself. No staff vehicle, no escort, no flags, no visible stars. She wanted to see Fort Ridgeline before anyone had time to prepare for her. Her phone connected through the car speakers as she passed a green highway sign marking the final 5 miles to the installation. Colonel Daniel Foster answered on the second ring. "Ma'am, we are ready for you at 1100. Alicia glanced at the clock on the dashboard. 9:22. "Do not announce me early." Foster paused. "Understood. I want to see the gate before anyone knows I am coming." "You are planning to enter through the civilian access lane?" "Yes. General, I can send a vehicle." Alicia looked toward the distant ridgeline beyond the windshield. That would defeat the point. Foster understood immediately. For the last several weeks, his command had been reviewing complaints about inconsistent treatment at the joint access checkpoints surrounding the base. Some visitors described smooth, professional screening. Others reported being questioned far longer than people in nearby lanes despite presenting comparable documentation. Several complaints specifically mentioned Black visitors being asked additional questions about where they were going, who they were meeting, and whether their credentials were legitimate. None of the reports alone proved a pattern. Alicia had insisted that the review begin with observation rather than accusation. "I do not want anyone performing for inspection," she told Foster. "I want normal procedure." "Yes, ma'am. And Daniel, do not tell the gate staff my rank." "Understood." The call ended. Alicia continued toward the installation. She had spent more than 3 decades in the Army, long enough to know that official visits often showed leaders the version of an organization people wanted them to see. Floors became cleaner. Briefings became smoother. Problems disappeared for the afternoon. Alicia was interested in what happened before anyone knew important eyes were watching. At 9:45, she stopped at a coffee shop 2 miles outside the gate and reviewed the briefing folder one final time. The documents described gate procedures, coordination between military police and local law enforcement, visitor access standards, and a list of complaints that had not yet been connected to any individual officer. Alicia read names only where necessary. She was not looking for someone to blame. She was looking for consistency. Before leaving, she removed the access credential from the document case and examined it. The format was uncommon because it had been issued through a higher-level command office for the inspection visit. The authorization was valid, the number could be verified through access control, and the supporting orders remained in her bag. She slid the credential into a protective sleeve, placed it beside her military identification, and drove the final 2 miles to Fort Ridgeline. As she approached the checkpoint, she watched the vehicles ahead of her. A pickup truck driven by a white civilian contractor slowed at the inspection table. The local police officer working beside the military gate personnel recognized the driver almost immediately. A quick smile, a short question, a glance at the pass. The barrier rose. Less than 30 seconds. Alicia noted the interaction without judgment. Then her rental sedan rolled forward. Officer Bradley Hayes looked through the windshield at her, then at the rental plate, then back at her face. His expression changed before Alicia had said a single word. She lowered the window. "Good morning," she said. Bradley did not return the greeting. Identification and reason for entry. Alicia reached toward the documents on the passenger seat. She had asked Fort Ridgeline not to announce her arrival because she wanted to see the system as everyone else experienced it. She had no idea that, within the next hour, one officer would give her exactly the answer she had come to find. Bradley Hayes took Alicia Morgan's military identification and access credential without returning her greeting. He looked at the rental car again, then at the documents, as though the vehicle itself made the paperwork less believable. "Who are you here to see?" he asked. "Colonel Daniel Foster." Bradley glanced up. "The base commander?" "Yes." "You have an appointment with Colonel Foster?" "I do." Alicia's tone remained even. Captain Sarah Mitchell stood near the access control booth several feet away, monitoring the lane, while Officer Luke Bennett remained beside the local patrol vehicle with his body camera recording. Bradley turned Alicia's credential over twice. "This format is unusual. It was issued through another command office." "Which command?" Alicia looked at him. "The issuing information is on the credential, and access control can verify the authorization." Bradley ignored the suggestion. "Why are you driving a rental car?" Alicia paused. "Because I rented it." Luke briefly lowered his eyes, hiding a reaction. Bradley did not find the answer amusing. "Most people coming to official meetings here have someone expecting them at the gate." "Someone is expecting me." "Then why did nobody call ahead?" Alicia could have answered that completely, but doing so would have defeated the reason she had arrived quietly. You can confirm my appointment with Colonel Foster's office. Sarah stepped closer. I can run the credential number through access control. Bradley held up one hand. Give me a minute. Alicia watched him, then glanced toward the lane beside them. The white contractor who had entered moments earlier was already disappearing toward the maintenance buildings. He had been recognized, greeted, checked, and released in less than half a minute. Alicia had now been stopped for several minutes despite presenting official identification and a credential designed specifically for access verification. Officer Hayes, she said, what additional information are you trying to establish? Bradley looked at her sharply. Whether you belong on this installation. The words settled between them. Alicia kept her expression neutral. And what specifically makes you doubt that? You are in a rental vehicle. Your past looks different. Nobody notified me you were coming. The contractor ahead of me was also in a civilian vehicle. I know him. So familiarity determines how much scrutiny someone receives. Bradley's face tightened. Do not put words in my mouth. I asked a question. Luke shifted slightly. His camera remained pointed toward the interaction. Sarah looked from Bradley to Alicia. Bradley, the number can be verified in less than a minute. He still did not hand over the credential. I have worked enough checkpoints to know when something feels off. Alicia studied him carefully. Procedure exists so that feelings do not have to decide access. Sarah's eyebrows lifted slightly. Bradley gave a short laugh. You seem pretty comfortable telling us how gate security works. I am familiar with military access procedures. Then you should understand why I am asking questions. I understand questions. I am asking why the established verification process has not been used. Bradley looked toward Luke. Bennett, you hearing this? Luke answered cautiously. Yes, sir. She has an answer for everything. Alicia turned toward Luke. Is that unusual when the answers are accurate? Luke did not respond. Bradley handed back her military identification but kept the access credential. Pull the vehicle over to secondary. Alicia complied, parking beside the inspection table and stepping out with her document case. The summer heat pressed against the pavement. Sarah joined them while Bradley continued studying the pass. There is nothing in the vehicle that changes whether this credential is valid, Alicia said. Bradley looked at the protective sleeve. Maybe the problem is the credential itself. Sarah shook her head. Then let me verify it. Alicia nodded. That is the correct procedure. Bradley's expression hardened at the phrase. To him, it sounded less like cooperation and more like instruction. He looked down at the pass, then back at the black woman standing calmly across from him. What Alicia saw in that moment was not simply caution. It was the point where caution had begun turning into certainty without evidence. And she knew from experience that once someone became more invested in being right than finding the truth, even the simplest procedure could start feeling like a challenge. Bradley Hayes kept Alicia Morgan's access credential in his hand while the heat shimmered above the pavement beyond the checkpoint. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Captain Sarah Mitchell remained close enough to see the document clearly, and Officer Luke Bennett stood near the patrol vehicle with his body camera still recording. Alicia had already provided military identification, the name of the base commander she was scheduled to meet, and a direct method for verifying the credential. Yet Bradley seemed less interested in confirming the information than proving his suspicion correct. He turned the pass over again and shook his head. This is not standard. Alicia answered calmly. It does not need to look familiar to you. It needs to be valid. Sarah stepped closer. Let me call access control. They can verify the credential number immediately. Bradley looked at her. I said I know what I am looking at. And I am telling you there is a verification process, Sarah replied. Her tone was professional, but firmer now. Bradley looked back at Alicia. Where exactly did you get this? From the command office that issued it. That is not an answer. It is the answer printed on the credential. Alicia did not raise her voice. She did not reach for the document. She simply stood there and watched him become increasingly committed to a conclusion that could have been tested with one phone call. Bradley tapped the protective sleeve against the inspection table. Anybody with a printer can make something that looks official. Luke shifted his weight. Sarah frowned. Bradley, stop guessing and verify it. Alicia added quietly. That would be the correct procedure. The words seemed to strike something deeper than disagreement. Bradley's eyes narrowed. You keep telling me how to do my job. I am telling you how to verify the document you are questioning. You think because you know some military terminology, that makes this legitimate. No. The issuing authority makes it legitimate. Sarah reached toward her radio. Bradley gave her a sharp look. Do not call anyone yet. Alicia's expression changed almost imperceptibly. Not fear, not anger, recognition. She had seen this pattern before. The moment when a professional question became personal, because someone could no longer separate authority from pride. Officer Hayes, she said, I am asking you one final time to return the credential or verify it through access control. Bradley stared at her. And if I decide it is fake? Then you document that decision and follow the established procedure. Maybe I should make sure nobody else tries to use it. Sarah immediately stepped forward. Bradley, do not damage it. Alicia's eyes moved to his hand. Officer Hayes, do not damage that pass. Luke's body camera remained fixed on them. The checkpoint seemed suddenly quieter, even with traffic moving in the next lane and the barrier arm rising behind them. Bradley gave a short, dismissive laugh. If it is real, they can issue another one. Alicia replied, that is not your decision to make. For 1 second, he hesitated. That second mattered. It was enough time to stop. Enough time to call access control. Enough time to hand the pass to Sarah and let procedure settle the question. Instead, Bradley bent the protective sleeve sharply against the edge of the inspection table. Sarah said his name. Alicia did not move. Bradley pulled at the laminated edge until the sleeve split and the credential inside was visibly damaged. Then he placed the pieces on the table as if the act itself had proven his point. Silence followed. Luke looked at the broken pass, then at Bradley. Sarah's expression hardened. Alicia lowered her eyes to the credential she had been issued only days earlier, then slowly looked toward Luke's body camera. Is your recording still active? She asked. Luke nodded. Yes, ma'am. Good. Bradley folded his arms. You planning to make a complaint now? Alicia looked directly at him. No. She reached into her document case and removed a small notebook. I am documenting a decision. Alicia. Morgan opened the small notebook and wrote the time first. 10:26 in the morning. Then the checkpoint location. Then Bradley Hayes' name. She did not rush, and that seemed to bother him more than any argument could have. Bradley watched her pen move across the page. You really think writing this down changes what happened? Alicia kept writing. No. She looked at the broken credential on the inspection table. It preserves what happened. Captain Sarah Mitchell stood nearby with her radio in one hand, her expression now noticeably different from when the encounter began. Officer Luke Bennett remained beside the patrol vehicle, his body camera still recording. Alicia turned toward him. Officer Bennett, is your recording continuous from the beginning of this contact? Luke nodded. Yes, ma'am. Has it been interrupted at any point? No, ma'am. Bradley gave an impatient sigh. Why are you questioning him like this? Alicia wrote another note. Because sequence matters. For a complaint? For documentation. Bradley folded his arms. Same thing. Alicia finally looked up. No. A complaint is an allegation. Documentation is a record. What happens after that depends on what the record shows. Luke's eyes moved briefly toward Bradley. It was the first time since the stop began that the younger officer seemed to be looking at him not as a senior colleague, but as part of the event itself. Alicia turned to Bradley. Your full name is Bradley Hayes? You already know that. I am confirming it. Yes. Your badge number? He hesitated. You do not need that. Sarah spoke before Alicia could answer. She is entitled to identify the officer involved. Bradley looked at Sarah with visible irritation. Whose side are you on? Sarah's expression hardened. This is not about sides. Alicia said nothing. She simply waited. Bradley finally gave the number. Alicia wrote it down. Who is your immediate supervisor today? Bradley stared at her. Why? Because I asked. That is not an answer. Alicia closed the notebook halfway, then opened it again. Your supervisor's name, please. Bradley's jaw tightened. Lieutenant Mark Reynolds. Alicia wrote the name. Carefully. And who authorized the local police detail at this checkpoint? Bradley gestured toward the installation. The city has an agreement with the base. I asked who authorized today's assignment. Sarah answered quietly. Joint operations schedule. Military police desk has the roster. Alicia nodded. Thank you. Bradley looked from Sarah to Alicia. You two finished? Alicia glanced at the broken pass. Not yet. Bradley gave a short laugh, but there was less confidence in it now. Who exactly do you think you are? The question hung there. Luke looked toward Alicia. Sarah did too. Alicia could have answered with one sentence and ended Bradley's certainty instantly. She could have told him her rank. She could have told him why Colonel Daniel Foster was expecting her. She could have explained why the credential looked unfamiliar, why the rental car had been deliberate, and why she had noticed the white contractor ahead of her being waved through after barely 30 seconds. Instead, she said, "Someone giving you the opportunity to correct the record before your supervisor arrives." Bradley shook his head. "There is nothing to correct." Alicia looked at the damaged credential. "Then verification should confirm that." Sarah turned slightly away and raised her radio. Her voice became lower, professional, controlled. "Access control. This is Captain Mitchell at the Joint Civilian Lane. I need command verification on an issued credential and notification to the base command office." Bradley's head snapped toward her. "Sarah, I told you not to call anyone." She met his eyes. "You do not control military access verification." A pause followed. The radio crackled. Alicia watched Bradley's expression change as the response came back too quietly for him to hear clearly. Sarah listened, then looked directly at Alicia. Something in her face shifted from concern to recognition, but she said nothing yet. Bradley noticed. "What?" he demanded. Sarah lowered the radio. "Command has been notified." Bradley looked at Alicia again, suddenly less certain of the woman standing across from him. Alicia slipped the notebook back into her document case. "Good," she said. "Now we wait for the people who can verify exactly what you chose not to." For the next several minutes, the checkpoint felt strangely suspended between ordinary routine and something nobody could yet name. Cars continued moving through the neighboring lane. The barrier arm rose and lowered. Radios crackled. Heat shimmered above the pavement. But around Alicia Morgan, Bradley Hayes, Captain Sarah Mitchell, and Officer Luke Bennett, the atmosphere had changed. Bradley tried to recover the confidence he had shown earlier. "Command is going to tell you the same thing I did," he said, glancing at Alicia. "If the pass was valid, they can issue another one." Alicia did not answer. She stood beside the inspection table with her document case resting against one leg, her expression calm, almost unreadable. Sarah watched the road leading deeper into Fort Ridgeline. Luke's body camera remained active. Bradley noticed Sarah checking the road and gave a thin smile. "Good. Let them come down here. We can settle this." Alicia looked at him. "That is what I have been asking for." He ignored the remark. "You know, most people who have legitimate business on a military installation do not turn a routine check into a confrontation." Alicia's voice stayed measured. "I did not destroy anything." That ended his momentum. Bradley looked away. A minute later, Sarah straightened. Two dark government vehicles appeared beyond the internal security lane, moving toward the checkpoint at a controlled speed. They were not emergency vehicles. No sirens. No flashing lights. Just the unmistakable efficiency of official transport. Bradley saw them and seemed almost relieved. "There. Now we get an answer." The first vehicle stopped about 30 feet from the inspection table. The second pulled in behind it. A uniformed driver stepped out and opened the rear door of the lead vehicle. Colonel Daniel Foster emerged in full service uniform, followed by Command Sergeant Major Raymond Cole. Foster's expression was serious before he had taken 3 steps. Cole scanned the checkpoint, taking in the broken credential on the table, Sarah's posture, Luke's body camera, and Alicia standing beside the rental sedan. Bradley moved forward quickly, eager to control the first explanation. "Colonel Foster, sir, Officer Bradley Hayes with the city detail. We had an issue with a visitor presenting a questionable credential. I attempted to verify what I could, but the document did not match the format we normally see, and she became argumentative when I challenged it." Sarah's eyes shifted toward him. Luke looked down for half a second, then back up. Alicia remained silent. Foster did not respond to Bradley. He kept walking. Bradley followed a step. "Sir, I can explain exactly what happened. The credential appeared irregular, and I believe there was a security concern." Foster still did not look at him. Instead, his attention went to the inspection table. He saw the damaged pass. Then he looked at Sarah. "Who damaged that?" Sarah answered immediately. "Officer Hayes, sir." Bradley raised a hand slightly. "Colonel, with respect, I believed it was fraudulent." Foster's face tightened, but he still did not address him. "Was verification available?" Sarah nodded. "Yes, sir. I offered to contact access control before the credential was damaged." Foster looked at Alicia. For the first time since arriving, his expression changed. Not surprise. Recognition. Respect. Bradley noticed it and became quiet. Command Sergeant Major Cole stopped several feet behind Foster, his posture becoming formal. Luke's attention moved from Foster to Alicia and back again. Bradley looked confused. "Sir." Foster stepped past him without answering. Alicia closed her document case and stood a little straighter, though her face remained as calm as it had been from the beginning. Bradley watched the commander approach the black woman he had spent the last half hour treating like an unwanted visitor. He seemed ready for Foster to question her, perhaps ask for identification, perhaps confirm that Bradley had been justified. Instead, Foster stopped directly in front of Alicia at the proper military distance. His heels came together. His shoulders squared. The conversation at the checkpoint died instantly. Even Bradley stopped breathing for a moment. Foster looked Alicia directly in the eyes, and then his right hand began to rise. Colonel Daniel Foster raised his right hand in a precise salute. "Lieutenant General Morgan, welcome to Fort Ridgeline, ma'am." For one suspended second, the entire checkpoint seemed to stop with him. Alicia Morgan returned the salute with the same controlled professionalism she had shown from the moment Bradley Hayes first questioned her. "Colonel Foster." Command Sergeant Major Raymond Cole stood at attention nearby, his expression composed but unmistakably serious. Captain Sarah Mitchell said nothing. Officer Luke Bennett's body camera continued recording. Bradley simply stared. The woman he had treated as an uncertain civilian visitor, the woman whose military access credential he had called questionable, was not merely connected to the Army. She was a 3-star general. Bradley looked from Foster to Alicia, then toward the damaged credential resting on the inspection table. His face lost nearly all of its earlier certainty. "Sir, I did not know she was a general." Foster finally turned toward him. Before he could respond, Alicia spoke. "You were not required to know." Bradley looked at her. Alicia's voice remained quiet. "My rank was not part of the verification procedure." The words landed harder than anger would have. Bradley opened his mouth, then closed it. Sarah glanced toward Luke's camera. Foster looked at the damaged pass again. "General, were you able to present valid identification and access documentation when you arrived?" "Yes." "Was verification offered?" Alicia looked toward Sarah. "Captain Mitchell offered to contact access control more than once." Sarah nodded. "That is correct, sir." Foster turned to Bradley. "And you declined?" Bradley shifted his stance. "I believe the credential could be fraudulent. The format was unfamiliar, and I was concerned about security." Alicia answered before Foster could. "Security concerns are exactly why verification systems exist." Bradley's eyes moved toward her. "I was trying to protect the installation." "Then you should have used the process designed to protect it." Her tone contained no triumph, only precision. Bradley glanced down. Luke had never seen him do that during the entire encounter. Foster asked, "What happened to the credential?" Sarah answered, "Officer Hayes damaged it after being advised not to." Bradley quickly added, "I thought preventing possible misuse was the safest option." Alicia looked toward the broken sleeve. "You had not established misuse." Silence returned. Cars continued passing through the adjacent lane, but no one at the inspection table seemed aware of them anymore. Bradley took a slow breath. "General Morgan, I apologize. If I had known who you were, I would never have handled this the way I did." Alicia's expression changed slightly. Not satisfaction. Something closer to disappointment. "That is the problem, Officer Hayes." Bradley looked up. "Ma'am, if knowing my rank would have changed the level of courtesy, patience, or procedure you gave me, then this was never only about the pass." No one spoke. The words forced the comparison everyone had already seen, but nobody had named aloud. The white contractor had arrived minutes before Alicia and been greeted, recognized, and waved through in less than 30 seconds. Alicia had presented official identification and had been questioned repeatedly about her destination, her rental vehicle, and whether she belonged on the installation at all. Bradley seemed to realize where the conversation was moving. "I treat everyone according to the situation." Alicia nodded once. "Then the record should support that." Foster's attention sharpened. "What record?" Alicia looked toward Luke's body camera, then toward the checkpoint cameras mounted above the lane. "The recording from this morning. The access logs. The visitor procedures. And the prior complaints." Bradley's face changed again. "Prior complaints?" Alicia reached into her document case and removed the sealed briefing folder she had carried from the rental car. Until that moment, Bradley had assumed the arrival of the base commander was the end of his problem. He was only beginning to understand that the salute had not been the reason Alicia Morgan came to Fort Ridgeline. It was simply the moment he learned who had been standing in front of him. Alicia Morgan placed the sealed briefing folder on the inspection table and rested one hand on it. Bradley Hayes looked at the folder, then at Colonel Daniel Foster, as though he was still waiting for someone to tell him the situation had been misunderstood. Nobody did. Alicia opened the folder and removed several pages clipped together in careful order. I came to Fort Ridgeline as part of a review of access consistency, coordination between civilian law enforcement and military police, and the treatment of visitors entering this installation. Bradley's expression tightened. Captain Sarah Mitchell stood beside the access booth, listening closely. Officer Luke Bennett remained near the patrol vehicle, his body camera still recording. Command Sergeant Major Raymond Cole stepped closer to the table without saying a word. Alicia continued. Over the last several weeks, the command received complaints describing very different experiences at joint checkpoints. Some visitors reported routine screening. Others described extended questioning after presenting valid identification. Several said they were asked repeatedly why they belonged here, even after their business had been confirmed. Bradley folded his arms. Complaints do not mean misconduct. Correct, Alicia said. That is why this is a review, not a conclusion. Foster looked at her. And this morning? Alicia turned one page. This morning became relevant because I arrived without an escort, without advance notification to the gate, and without visible rank. That was deliberate. Bradley stared at her. You were testing us? No. I was observing normal procedure. That sounds like the same thing. Alicia shook her head. A test is designed around a known outcome. I did not know who would be working this lane. I did not know how I would be treated. I asked Colonel Foster not to announce my arrival because I wanted to see the system before it knew it was being observed. Sarah looked toward the neighboring lane where the white contractor had passed earlier. Alicia followed her gaze. The contractor immediately ahead of me was recognized, greeted, and cleared in less than 30 seconds. I presented valid military identification, an official access credential, and the name of the base commander I was scheduled to meet. Instead of using the verification system available to you, Officer Hayes, you questioned my vehicle, my destination, the format of my pass, and whether I belonged here. Bradley's voice became defensive. Because there were inconsistencies. Then the record will show whether you apply the same level of suspicion consistently. She looked toward Foster. I want the checkpoint footage preserved from the beginning of the morning shift. Visitor logs, access control queries, duty rosters, radio traffic related to this lane, and Officer Bennett's full body camera recording. Foster nodded. It will be preserved. Alicia turned to Sarah. Captain Mitchell, document each time you offered verification and each response you received. Yes, ma'am. Luke spoke carefully. General Morgan, my camera recorded the contractor before your vehicle arrived. Alicia looked at him. Then preserve that sequence as well. Bradley's eyes narrowed. So now I am being compared to every person who came through today? Alicia answered. You are being compared to procedure. That distinction silenced him. Foster asked, are there prior complaints connected to this officer? Alicia looked down at the pages. There are prior complaints connected to this checkpoint system. Officer Hayes's name appears in more than one summary. Bradley's face changed. How many? Enough to review. Not enough to prejudge. She closed the folder halfway. One complaint described a black civilian employee being held for nearly 20 minutes after his access had been confirmed. Another involved a black military spouse questioned repeatedly about why she was using a visitor lane despite having valid documentation. A third concerned a delivery driver who said his identification was examined several times, while another driver was cleared quickly. None of the summaries, by themselves, proved intent. Together, they raised a question that could no longer be ignored. Bradley looked at Foster. Colonel, I have worked this detail for years. I have never treated anyone differently because of race. Alicia's voice remained calm. Then the footage, logs, and complaint history may support you. Bradley looked back at her. And if they do not? Alicia closed the folder completely. Then the review will have found exactly what it was sent here to find. 1 week later, the morning traffic at Fort Ridgeline moved with a different kind of rhythm. Nothing dramatic had changed about the checkpoint itself. The same lanes curved toward the installation. The same barrier arms rose and lowered. The same summer sun reflected from windshields and painted long shadows across the pavement. But the review had already changed how people paid attention. Bradley Hayes had been temporarily removed from gate duties while the city department and military command examined the preserved footage, visitor logs, supervisor notes, and previous complaints. No final judgment had been issued. No career had been erased in a single afternoon. He had been reassigned to administrative work while the facts were reviewed. Alicia Morgan returned to Fort Ridgeline that morning in full Army uniform. 3 silver stars rested on each shoulder, visible now because there was no longer any reason to conceal her rank. Yet when she approached the checkpoint, she did not watch to see who saluted first. She watched how ordinary visitors were treated. A black mother in a blue sport utility vehicle pulled into the civilian access lane with a young boy seated behind her. Captain Sarah Mitchell greeted her, checked the identification she presented, explained one additional verification step, and contacted access control without suspicion or unnecessary delay. The woman asked a question. Sarah answered it. The documents were confirmed. The barrier rose. The entire exchange took only a few minutes. Respectful, clear, professional. Alicia stood nearby and watched the vehicle continue onto the installation. That was the result she cared about. Not the salute. Not Bradley's embarrassment. Not the moment his confidence disappeared. Procedure working equally for everyone mattered more than any of those things. Later that morning, Bradley asked to speak with her in a small conference room near the administrative offices. He was still in uniform, but the confidence he had carried at the checkpoint had been replaced by something quieter. He remained standing until Alicia gestured toward a chair. General Morgan, I know the review is still open. Alicia nodded. It is. Bradley looked down at his hands. I have worked in law enforcement for more than 20 years. I do not want one bad decision to define everything I have done. Alicia studied him for a moment before answering. Then the review should examine everything you have done, not only one decision. Bradley looked up. That does not sound very reassuring. It is not supposed to be reassuring. It is supposed to be fair. He took a breath. I should not have damaged the pass. No. I should have let Captain Mitchell verify it. Yes. He hesitated. And I should not have questioned you the way I did. Alicia remained silent, waiting for him to continue. Bradley's voice lowered. If I had known you were a lieutenant general, none of that would have happened. Alicia's expression became still. That sentence is exactly why this review matters. Bradley frowned slightly. Alicia continued. The contractor before me did not need 3 stars to receive basic courtesy. The woman who entered this morning did not need them either. Respect cannot depend on whether the person in front of you turns out to outrank you. Bradley looked toward the window. So what happens now? You cooperate with the review. You complete whatever training or corrective action the findings support. And if you return to public-facing duty, you remember that authority is not permission to replace procedure with instinct. Bradley nodded slowly. I understand. Alicia rose and picked up the replacement access credential resting beside her folder. Bradley looked at it, then at the stars on her uniform. Alicia followed his eyes. This pass proves that I have access to this installation. My rank proves where I serve in the chain of command. Neither one is what made me worthy of dignity when you first saw me. Bradley said nothing. Alicia walked toward the door, then stopped. Accountability is not about ending careers, Officer Hayes. It is about protecting the trust that makes authority legitimate. Outside, another vehicle approached the gate. Another visitor handed over identification. Another officer followed the procedure. The barrier lifted. And that was the lesson Bradley had missed the first time. The pass had only proven Alicia belonged on the base. His decision had proven why the system needed to look more closely at itself.